Hello there, welcome to my YouTube channel Saint Nightingale. In this tutorial video, I'm going to be showing you how to cut and sew this underbust corset dress with a basque waistline and a built-up neckline. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time for you to click on that subscribe button. Let's learn. Alright, so the pattern paper is already on the floor. So the first thing I did was to take out 4 inches upwards away from that part, which is where I'll be working the built-up neckline. And then the next thing I'm going to be doing is to pick up my ruler to connect the markings that I have made. Alright, afterwards I went on to mark the shoulder to underbust measurements, which for me is 12.5 inches. I picked up my ruler again and connected the markings that I have made. So I would label this on the bust UB and that line starting point. So the next thing I'm also going to be doing now is to measure the shoulder to the waist measurement, which is also the half length measurements. The half length measurement I made use of is 15 inches. So I went on to mark 15 inches as well on that line. So after connecting the line, I'm going to label this waistline WL. Afterwards, the next thing I did was to mark the hip line, which is 8 inches away from that waistline point, and connected my markings as well with the long ruler and labeled this HP. Alright, so the basque measurement is 21 inches, which is what I just marked there. Shoulder downwards is 21 inches. So I went on to mark a new fresh line for the basque point, and that's what I measured, rather label BP. So the next thing I'm going to do right now is to measure the shoulder measurement. The shoulder measurement that I'll be working with is 7 inches. So at first, when I started this pattern, I wanted to do a different style, which was what made me measure as 6 inches instead of 7 inches, but thereafter I just changed it to 7 inches. So what you can see me drawing now is the armhole length, which is 8 inches, and that's what I measured now, and I'll just label that as well. Then I went on to now create the armhole measurement. I will still change this, like I mentioned, I will still change this back to 7 inches on fold, which is 14 inches. What I wanted to do was 12 inches at first for the shoulder measurement, but I eventually changed it along the line while working on this. What I'm trying to do at this point now is to calculate the bust measurement as well as the waist measurement. So the waist measurement that I worked with is 25 inches, so I added 2 inches sewing allowance to that and marked that on that point, and that's where you can see me connecting the line. I also added 2 inches as well, to 2 extra inches as well to the bust area to get that. So from that line that you have the waistline, I'm going to place my ruler and mark out the basque line. So because I'm going to be taking out these 2 inches eventually when I sew this, I'm not going to be starting from that initial line. So I went back inwards by 2 inches and then just connected the lines downwards to get my basque line. Some person's line might be longer than this depending on the full or the half length measurement of the person you're working with. That is what will influence that. So like I mentioned, for the shoulder I will still change this to back to 7. I worked with 8, which is why you have that slope there. I also changed the armhole curve that I did initially for this line as this video progresses. So let's measure the wideness of the neck. So the wideness of the neck that I worked with is 3 inches. So I marked 3 inches on that point, and then I went up by another 3 inches on that line, which is that line that I connected now. And then the curve that I'm working with is 1.5 inches. So I picked up my curve ruler, and on that line I created a curve to that other line and just drew out that curve. Then I went further again to also take out the shoulder slope as well from that line, which is what I just marked there on 1 inch. So like I mentioned to you, I'm going to be changing this back to 7 inches, which is, on fold will give us 14 inches for the back measurements, so that we can just proceed with this. Like I said, I wanted this shoulder to be smaller, but last minute changes, I just decided to change this. So I'm just going to plot a new armhole as well as the curve as well, so that we can proceed to doing other patterns. So this underbust corset, let me also mention, will not be having seams across this. I'm going to just be using the waist snatching technique for this. I'm not going to be creating any seams to open up this to sew together. So just follow through the process and see how I was able to achieve this. So we're done with that. We've inserted the shoulder slope. The next thing I'm going to be doing right now is to create the curve from the underbust. So I went downwards and placed my measuring tape on that line, and then I marked 3 inches on that spot, right, which is where I want the curve to start from, where the underbust will sit. And then thereafter I picked up my curve ruler as well to connect this, but just follow through, you would see what I'm trying to do with this. So I picked up my curve ruler and placed it because I want the curve to start from there and just go like a straight line. So I looked for a way to make this curve properly. I placed my and then I decided to go upwards again by another half an inch from that point that I had marked 3 inches, and then just drill that curve on that line, and there you have it. So this is ready. I'll just go ahead to shave, or rather shade off the parts that I will not be working with, and also label this. I labeled that F1 and F2. I would also be opening this up now with the scissors to take out the pattern and break the pattern down, as you can see in the video. So let's open this up. So I've opened this up now. Let's cut the pattern for the back. So using the same measurements or the same lines that I used for the front side, I'm going to be creating this as well. For me, the first thing I also did here is to take out the zip allowance from this, which is 2 inches. So I took out 2 inches, rather 1.5 inches. I worked with 1.5 inches for the zip allowance for this, and I took that out. And then I also picked up the ruler to connect the line so that this is visible. So after doing this, the next thing for me is to measure the shoulder measurement, which is 7 inches on fold. Afterwards, I went on to take the depth of the wideness of the neck, as well as the length for the curve at the back. And what I did, you can see that I have markings on the curve roller. I measured it to be sure that what I have in front is the same as what I have at the back, and that's that marking that you saw that guided me in replacing the curve as well. This is a shoulder slope, and then we're going to now plot the armhole slope as well. Alright, so the next thing is to plot the bust measurement. The bust measurement I worked with is 34 inches, so I added 2 inches to that and arrived at this marking. I'm going to also do the same for the waist side as well. Added 2 inches sewing allowance to that, and then plotted the bust and the waistline. Alright, so I'm going to be making use of a keyhole pattern. So I took out 2 inches on that line, and vertically and horizontally, and just use freehand to connect this together, and there you have it. Thereafter, I'm going to be also, and because this is a corset, the back is a corset dress, so I'm going to be taking out the opening from that part. But first of all, let's just connect this lines that you can see me doing on the zip part. So now let's take out the dart measurement, which is on 3.5 inches. is the same measurement that we use in the front if we're to take out the nipple to nipple measurement. So I'm going to take out 1/2 inch on the left side and on the right side, and then use my ruler to connect the lines from that part towards that part. So now that we're done with this, next thing is to now take out the excess that I won't be needing for the back of the corset dress. So I took out 1.5 inches away from that zip allowance line, and so that you can easily identify what I'm doing, I'm going to shade off the parts that I will not be needing in this pattern. So this is set, so we'll just proceed to cutting this out. So let me quickly show you what this back pattern looks like. The back pattern is what's sitting on the left, and the front pattern is what is sitting on the right. So let's place this on the fabric cutout and then go to the sewing machine. So we're on the sewing machine now, and this is me joining the lining to the fabric for the upper part, the part that I labeled F1. Also for the midsection, well, let me just talk about the type of fabric that I used. I made use of crepe for the fabric, and I used the lining to line this. But for the mid part, I made use of the crepe as well. I made use of this lining that you can see, and I made use of bridal satin to just thicken this up. So what I'm trying to do right now is to join all the sides that needs to be joined together. So you can see me placing, for that part I labeled F2 where the basque line sits, you can see me placing the crepe material, the bridal satin, and then the lining. So I double the lining. At the end of the day, I'm lining with 3 pieces of material, two lining material for the aba lining, that's what we call it in Nigeria, and then the bridal satin as the third lining, so just sticking that part up. You could decide to use an interfacing material like the S stay or gum stay or paper stay, but this is the material that I used to create this design. Also, depending on the texture of the fabric that you're working with, this would also influence the type of interfacing that you use for your design. So let's proceed. What I'm doing now is to join the sides as well as the one for the other sides of this pattern. Also, for the basque line, you can see me joining all the piece of material together for the upper side, which I would also, once done, would trim out the excess and then weave it out. This is just so that the piece of material can sit properly. This is the back part or back piece as well. I'm going to be joining the dot line together, dot line to dot line together, and then I will join the lining as well. Remember I said I doubled the lining that I made use of. So this is as thick as possible. So I've connected the back side together, I mean the dot line to the dot line, as well as the side to the side. So what I'm going to be doing now is to connect the lining together with the main fabric. I mean the back, the material that would take the pleats for the lower part of this, or the skirt area for this design. So I join the lining to the sides, and then afterwards I'm going to just sew it on the upper part. I'm going to sew it downwards after I flip this over. So just as I mentioned, after flipping, or rather before flipping this over, we're going to close the tip of this. I made use of 1 inch and a quarter sewing allowance to close this up. The measurement, the full length measurement that I worked with is 50 inches, shoulder downwards 50 inches. So this was going to sit some parts away from the ankle. Shoulder to the ankle measurement is 54 inches, so that's like 4 inches away from the ankle measurement is what I used to achieve this full length. So I flipped this over now. I would now just join the tip, so it's easy for me to navigate when I'm pleating this on the upper part of the dress. Also, the wideness of this lower part for the skirt is 3 yards. I made use of 3 yards to achieve this. Depending on the size that you are working with, the size of the person that is going to be wearing what you're working with, that will determine the number of yards that you use to achieve the lower part. So for the part that has the keyhole design, let's just watch through to see how I join this together as well. I'm joining the shoulder first, rather the neck area first, that has the built up neckline, joining the part that has the extra allowance to it, and then the keyhole, and we are good to go. Also, because this is a sleeveless dress, you can see that I've joined the side of the armhole so that this covers up, because I'm not attaching the sleeves to this, so that's why I'm closing this this way. I'm also going to do this for the upper part of the dress itself as well, so I'm going to close the sides because this is sleeveless. So after closing the sides, I'll open up and then proceed to joining this together shoulder to shoulder. Once this is done, you also have to ensure to iron as well as you proceed with this with this joining as well, so that everything you're working with flattens out accordingly. So what I'm just trying to do now is quickly join this together while I proceed to join in the upper parts and lower parts of this back area together, so that I can eventually join to the upper parts in front so it can sit shoulder to shoulder. So you can see me adjusting this now to sit properly where this should sit, following the pattern. So I had to go through to check the pattern again to get the measurement, and then adequately or appropriately place this on that part of the pattern as well. So now that this is done, I will be using the lining to close up these parts. You also see how I close up the sides, for the back. How I'll also introduce the bridal satin I'll use to close up that part, which is where the corset rings will sit. So you can see that I am joining this way. That's the part that will sit the corset rings. So I'm going to use the bridal satin now to turn this over so it gives it this shininess. So the bridal satin has been doubled into two, so I would now flip this over so that this can be as thick as possible when I'm using this for that part. So you can see that see how I placed it. So I'm just trying to sew this down as well so it's as firm as possible before placing it on the fabric. So the wideness of this is 4 inches. So see how I placed it. I turned that inside that way and then I sewed this down. So I'll do the same thing for the other side as well, the left and the right side. So you can see that I turned this in by 1.5 inches and then I just placed that way and I sewed this downwards. So after sewing that, I will flip over and just close up the upper parts, trim out the excess, and I'll replicate the same thing for the other side as well. So I'll just close up that tip push in the excess material and just close it up. Alright, so that's done. The next thing I'm going to do now is to join the shoulder to the shoulder together. And after joining, would weave the part that needs to be weaved. Also, before that, the part that will sit the basque line would also be worked on. So before I sew the part that has the basque line, I will just close this downwards, closing the lining with the material that is labeled F1 together, so that I can have a fabric that sits still. Also, because there's no power at the moment, and so I couldn't iron this to flatten this out, so I'm going to try as much as possible to see how I can improvise to achieve my goals. So now let's proceed to the basque line. So these lines have been created. I have 7 in total, 3 flush to the left and 3 flush to the right, and divided by one line. And the difference between both lines is 2 inches on the up and on the lower part. So I'm going to be using the bridal satin that you can see in this video to create a bone casing. So watch how I place the bridal satin on the fabric, how I flip over and sew downwards. Alright, so I'm going to replicate the same process for the remaining 6 lines, and then once I'm done, I'm going to pass the boning stick into it. So now that that is done, I will just trim out the excess from the upper part, and then I'm going to join this to the part that I have labeled F1. So I'm going to join F2 to F1. I notched the center of this, and then I started connecting this, also placing the center point where the boning casing has been inserted to that line, so everything aligns. I'm going to flip over, and then I would begin joining this together. So now that this has been joined together, the next thing I will do is to insert the boning stick into the boning casing. Before inserting it, I cut to a line, and then I burnt it with my lighter, so that this would be as smooth as possible and will not inconvenience the person who will be wearing this. So I cut this line by line, burnt the edges with the lighter, and then passed it into the casing. So we're done with that part now. The next thing I'm going to be doing is to also pass the boning case at the back. So I created two lines very close to where you have the shiny bridal satin, which will also sit this boning stick. So we have like two sticks close to that shiny pattern. That's what I just passed in now. So we're done with that now. The next thing we're going to be doing now is to weave. I'm done weaving the tip, and I'm now going to be joining the sides together for the front and for the back. So I'll just take out the excess allowance and then join this together now. So now that this is joined together, I've also weaved the tip for the skirt area. That's the center point now that I'm pinning to that center point. The method I'm going to be doing is to pleat towards, I'm going to be pleating towards that V part for the left and for the right. So when this flips back, I mean when we see the right side, you see that the pleats are coming towards the midpoints for the basque line. So what I'm doing now is to pleat this, making use of 2 inches wide, so that this aligns properly. So let's just split through. So you can watch my hand and see how this is being pleated. So I mean, you can see how it's pleated towards that side, so that when it's flipped over, the direction of the pleat aligns properly. When I flip this over as well to the other side, you would see how I will pleat this so that it would meet, I mean, it will be like facing towards this other side as well. I also ensure that while pleating, I also gave room for the zip allowance for the skirt area, so that, I mean, there's enough fabric to work with after pleating this on the upper body of the dress, which is why I made use of the wideness that I used for the pleat. So let's pleat the other side as well, so you can see. Let me just slow this down so you see. So here, look at the direction of the pleats, how the pleats are seated. So for the other side, the left side from my view, we're going to be pleating towards that side. So let's proceed. So after pleating, I would insert the zip, insert the corset rings, and then I will show you what this looks like on the mannequin. And let's go. And voila, here you have it. So you can see the built up neckline, you can see the shoulder, you can see the underbust, you can see the bone casing. So I'll just zoom in now for you to see what the casing looks like and how this is very, very, very lovely and how it complements the entire look. I'm also going to show you how this turned out to look like on the model, which turns out to be my sister. If you have any questions for me, you can leave them down below in the comment section. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time for you to click on that subscribe button. Also turn on the notification bell so you can be notified about my new videos. Do you like what you see? Do you want people to learn as well? You can just click on the share button and share to your respective contact persons or community so that they can learn a thing or two about this design. Like I always say, from me to you, keep creating magic. All right, I hope you love this. I also made a post of this picture on my community tab, so you can just click on that and show me some love on that page. If you haven't followed or aren't following my Instagram handle, it's at @sentnightingale.official. right, the only thing that changes is the .official. All right, see you next time. Bye bye.